Welcome back to An Athlete's Journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed, and today I got a special guest, somebody up on the rise, y'all. Like I said, I've seen his page. He is doing the damn thing. I was like, yo, this he is basically the first track, athlete I ever had on the show. So I'm extremely honored and just appreciate him so much for coming on. We was talking before the show started. Really good dude. Have some definitely agreements of what he has to say. So like y'all gonna know his story, and we gonna get this going. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Man, first and foremost, bro, it's a pleasure to be on, man. We were supposed to start at 4:30, man. We've been chopping it up for the past 20 minutes. And just grateful, bro. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I think anytime you have an opportunity to speak with like-minded people, you can't take that for granted, right? There's always stuff you can gain and benefit from. But name's Akeem Haynes, man, two-time Olympian, author, motivational speaker is what I do now. And among all the things, man, I'm not really a title person, man. I'm just someone who is trying to be obedient to God's will, and that's something that I try and practice every day, man.
No, that is a truly blessing, man. That's a true blessing. And I always feel like people come into your life for seasons. Some seasons are short, some seasons long as hell. You just want to have the right person in your life during this season. So I'm definitely glad that we linked up, brother. And we're gonna get it started. You know what I'm saying? How did your sports journey start?
Man, sports, man. So originally, man, I was born in Jamaica, right? So um moved from Jamaica in 1998, essentially for a better life, better opportunities. Where I came from in Jamaica, man, it was pretty tough, man. It was a rough area. Just to put into perspective, 2016, the place where I grew up, man, there was like 99 deaths almost every month in that area,
Oh
right?
wow.
It was rough. So early on, my dad knew it's like, man, Akeem can be a million and one things in a different country, but if he stays here, he's limited, right? So he just worked and worked and worked and like literally worked for every day, like 365 days. To this day, I'm just like, bro, like, how didn't you not get sick one time? You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been doing there. And, next thing you know, my mom and I moved to Canada. And this is where I grew up. And my first initial part was the sports, man. You know, it wasn't track and field. Like, track and field was probably my fourth favorite sport because at the end of the
Okay.
day, man, track and field is every other sports as punishment. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You miss a jump shot, whatever, you miss too many jump shots, you got to go run. You show up late for practice, you got to go run. It didn't seem like it was for me, you
Very
know?
true, very true.
But I had a coach in high school, man. He said, Akeem, if you run track and field, it'll get you faster for football, right? So I was like, man, that makes sense. So I started running track and field. I reluctantly wanted to do it still, right? But he came to my house one day and he talked to my mom, and my mom said, I think you should try it. I was like, sure. And I didn't really start taking it seriously, man, until I started getting offers, right, from schools in America. And I started to realize, wait a minute, that schools are going to pay me to run track for them down there and they're going to take care of my schooling. I said, man, I should probably take this a little bit more seriously, right? So that's kind of how it started for me, man. I was a dual sport athlete running football and track, had no intentions of running track. I just wanted to play football. But track and field is the foundation of almost every single sport, right? So I went back to the foundation. It got me faster, but it got me a lot faster than I would have thought. And it started to open up more doors. So that's kind of how I got started in sport, man.
Okay, okay. Now I know for us, basketball players, we have something called like the AAU growing up, where it's like we're playing on all-star teams. We get to travel around
Yeah.
and do different things. Did you grow up like that yourself with the track?
No, man, I started late, or what people would consider late. Now there is AAU track, but it starts at like it starts from like 7 all the way up, right? But again, it's different in Canada than it is in America, right? There's clubs up here, but you can't start running club track and field in Canada until you're like 10, 11 years old, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
don't just take, the smaller younger guys. But for me, man, I started late. Like my first track meet that was actually on notice was at school, like high school. And so I started running with the club, and I didn't run any of the AAU stuff that mirrors it. But I made my first Canadian team when I was 16 years old, right? So World Youth. So we didn't have any AAU type stuff back here, but we did have club track and field, and I did
Mhm.
run club track and field once I figured this was going to be a pathway and an avenue to something else.
Okay, okay. I was wondering about that because I was like, I know they have clubs, but I don't know how it works. Obviously, growing up,
Yeah,
running and track and things like that. So you went to high school in Canada, right?
yeah. So I went to high school in Canada. I went to high school at Crescent Heights High School. It's one of the oldest schools in the city here, but a lot of historical people in the Canadian space. So I went to college here, man, and or high school here, but not gonna get it twisted, man. High school in America and high school in Canada are two different entities and two different things,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay,
I
okay.
went to my city is called Calgary, right? Unless you are geographically inclined, then you probably know where those places are. But when you're thinking about Canada, you're thinking about Toronto, right? You're
Mm-hmm,
thinking about maybe Vancouver,
mm-hmm,
but it's different out here. It's a lot harder to get recognized out here because nobody comes to Western Canada really unless you're a tourist or unless you heard something about it.
mm-hmm.
So a lot of the competition and the scouts and all that stuff, they go over to Toronto because it's a bigger market, right? So I went to high school here, but it was a lot harder to get recognized here. But at the same time, track is so universal. If you're fast, you're fast. If you can jump, you can jump. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you get results, man, they often find you.
Okay, okay. What would you say your most memorable moment in high school was?
Uh Most memorable, man. It was it was two things. It was one on the track and one off the track. The one on the track was provincial. So
Mm-hmm.
provincials would be that would be kind of like your not state meet. What's the other one after state for you guys? It's
Nationals?
Yes,
Stuff like, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So we call it provincial. So we go divisionals, we go cities, which would be state, and then we go provincials, which would be nationals. So nationals this time, man, it's raining, right? It's raining, it's cold, it's June, but it snowed the day before. It snows in my city. It doesn't care about what day it is, what date it is. If it coming, it's coming. But this day it snowed the day before, and I'm running the 200 meters, man, and it's cold. It's raining. Everybody's wearing their rain jacket, and they're talking it up, right? They're talking. Akeem is trying to break this record that hasn't been broken in the past 30 years. I knew I was going to break it because I broke it already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're there, and I put my hands down on the track, Trav, and my hands is in puddles. Like the water is soaking up on this track, and I'm freezing. You know what I'm saying? I can roll it, but I'm
Right.
freezing. And I finished that race and I broke the record, but it was how I did it, right? I ran into a headwind. It was in the rain. It was cold, but I did notice that even though it was cold, the stands were packed, right? Because, they were all coming to see, could it be done? Could it be done from this guy here? So that was one that stuck to mind, man. That was a race that stuck to mind. The other part was when I started to really get scholarship offers, right? And I remember I remember telling my mom, man, I said, Ma, like, this is a way out right here, right? I'm gonna go finish school. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna run fast. I'm gonna get a contract. And when I get the contract, man, some of that financial strain that we have, like, it's gonna be good. We're gonna be able to get to not just survive but thrive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that was two big moments for me, man, because it showed that I didn't think that was possible. Not that I didn't think that it could be done, but I didn't know anybody that got a full scholarship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know what that looked like. But the fact that it was happening and it was around me, I was like, man, I wonder what else I could do.
Okay, okay. Now, obviously, you breaking records, so obviously one of the top runners in your, in your obviously you're in the national, so you're one of
Yeah,
the top runners where you're at. Now you said you got recruited by colleges in the States.
yeah.
Was it a lot of schools? Was it a couple schools? Um, and what made you choose the school that you eventually went to?
Yeah, man. So I was a dual sport athlete, so I was getting recruited by schools in America to play football and run track. So
Okay.
football schools, some of them was like Montana, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and a couple others. But on the track side, man, I was getting dang and recruited by almost every other school, right? Because I mean, I was number two in the world in my event at that point, right? So
Right.
I had a lot more. My recruiting list was bigger in track than it was in football. Plus, in football, there's always the eye test, right? They look at you and they're like, "Man, this guy doesn't match my prototypical style that I would like," and they some of them don't go, but there are coaches who can see more. So um, why? So originally, man, I was gonna attend Florida State, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as you know, man, life doesn't always go according to how you plan.
Of
So I
course.
realized after I signed my letter of intent to go to Florida State that one of the math that I took in the ninth grade, the NCAA didn't accept anymore. Right. So I was automatically ruled ineligible, meaning if I wanted to go Division One, I couldn't.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, man. So it was tough, man. It was a tough one to swallow. But I decided to go to a junior college because you also got to know yourself. I knew myself, man. I knew if I stay home for that semester, there was a good chance that maybe I would have got into some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I would have said, you know what, I'm just gonna go next year, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a disciplined kid, but sometimes idle time is not the best time.
Of
So
course.
I actually went to Barton Community College before I went to the University of Alabama.
So you went to junior college before. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what do you remember about your first year? Because I was like, I know JC is a little different. What do you remember about your first year going to the JC compared to high school in Canada?
Man, I learned, man, that it was the struggles of my life growing up that prepared me for these moments in my life. Yo, junior college, Trev, it is not for the faint. It is not for the wishy-washy people. It is not for weak-minded people because junior college is a place that you go to and you can lose sight of the mission. And that's to go there, get your schooling, get your times right, and then get out. You don't go to junior college to stay, right? I went to a junior college called Barton Community College, one of the most prestigious track and field school ever in the history there, right? Like there are people who go to Barton and they get so fast at Barton that they can go pro,
Oh
right?
wow.
Oh yeah, man. Like this is a school that had Tyson Gay, who was the American record holder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Tyson Gay went there. Veronica Campbell Brown went there, who was like a five-time Olympian, former world record holder,
Mm-hmm.
former record holder for Jamaica. Like the list here is crazy. Like
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
the 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 100-meter record at Barton is like 993. I think I'm like 14th on that list, and I ran pretty fast at Barton. Right. So the list is steep. Like put it this way, Trav. Like I went from being top three in the 100, in the 200, in my age group to being the fifth fastest person on my team when I got there.
Wow,
Right.
wow.
So plus I was coming off of the injury. So it took me a while to get acclimated to the junior college sense. Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention, man, the culture is different, right? You're not getting certain vernacular and slang like that in Canada as you would from a guy, who is from South, deep South Texas or Atlanta. It's just different. And the way they thought
Agree.
different, right? So for me, man, junior college, it was tough, but it was much needed. It was tough in the sense of there's nothing to do. Literally, like the Barton is in a city called Great Bend, Kansas. Does that sound exciting? No, right? Like, try the most exciting thing, man, was Walmart, bro. So if cats are going to Walmart, man, you're trying to squeeze up in wherever it is so you can go to Walmart too, because it just wasn't a place that was the most exciting. But if you worked it like how it worked you, you will come out not only a better athlete, but a better person. You don't go to those schools to come back to where you went from. I had some cats who came to that school, didn't do their job, and was in jail the moment that they left.
Oh
Oh
wow.
wow! Because you've seen the Netflix, right? Last Chance You, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched a lot of them. Yeah.
The first one, the foot, no, the third one, the football one, where it talks about Independence, Kansas, right?
Is that the
Very
one with yeah.
with Coach Brown, very, very similar to how it actually is, especially in the track and field space. Football gets a lot more love, but
Hmm.
it's a lot less love, a lot more grind on the track and field side, man. So junior college, man, I enjoyed my time there, but I knew I was mentally different than the other people that were there.
Yeah, okay. I guess that answers my second question, which would have been what was the hardest thing from college, from high school, but you just kind of answered it where, people are much faster. They talking ish, you know what I'm saying?
It's
Uh
faster, they're bigger,
yeah.
they're stronger, and there's no age limit in junior college. So you can be, man, I was racing up against Cass who was like 26 years old. I was 18 years old, right? And so it's it's different because you realize, man, you may be good here, but it's like, man, everybody is good at home to a certain extent. But then you go to a school in junior college or Division 1, and you realize, wait, they were the best in their city too. you you wasn't no different from these cats,
Very
right?
true.
So now, what more can you do to help you rise above?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that when it comes to basketball anyway, I went to UCLA out of high school, and so
Bruins,
UCLA, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So it was my dream school, but like it's obviously one of the top schools in the country.
yeah,
So I was, top, let's say top 30, top 40 players in the country coming in.
yeah,
Highly touted, McDonald's All American alternate, whatever, whatever. Now we came in with the number one recruiting class in the country because they had Baron Davis, Earl Watson, a bunch of NBA guys. Um, so like when I got to campus, I was going against this dude named J.R. Henderson, who was a senior.
yeah,
And he ended up playing in the NBA for, like 3-4 years, played overseas in Japan for like 20 years, still in Japan now. And like I was like, this dude is the best forward in the country. So
yeah,
I'm like thinking I'm the man, freshman, big name, whatever. I get in, man, I get into practice. He comes and just elbows dunk. Boom. First practice. I'm like, oh. And the coach is like, get up, freshman.
yeah.
This is every day. You gonna do this, he gonna go get you every day. And so, like, for the first month, he destroyed me every day. I'm like losing confidence in myself. Like, damn, can I
It's
even play in college?
boy,
So,
it's eye opening, man, because
yeah.
you realize, and I'm sure you've seen this as well too, Trev. Uh, there are people who are like talented, there are people who are freakishly talented, and there are people who are just extremely gifted. And that happens a lot more times than you think.
No, I agree, man. Like I said, that my freshman year, we played against like, I don't know, 15, 20 NBA guys played against Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Mike Bibby. Uh, I mean, just so many dudes. I can't even, count how
Yeah.
many NBA dudes we played against. So our first game was against North Carolina, against Vince Carter and
Jeez.
Antoine Jameson. I remember they beat us by like 30. I saw Vince Carter running on a break. I was about to jump, and I was like, "Oh no, that's Vince Carter. Never mind."
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just had to learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, this is a navigation kind of thing. So yeah, I understand that, man. I understand that. So, what made you choose Alabama as a university to go to?
Man, this is a that's a question that like not a lot of people really ask me too much, man. Because they just think like, yo, you go to Alabama, it's the bigger school, blah blah blah, this prestigious thing. But man,
Hmm.
it was a tough decision for me, Trav. Like and I didn't have a lot of guidance along the way, right? Like my mom didn't really know too much about what school was school. She would just say, "Oh, just trust your gut, baby." I'm like, "Yeah, but sometimes I need like more."
I need some good more than just trust your gut, mom. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. And so it came down to me like my top 5 schools, man, was Iowa. I really liked them. They were had an up and coming program, and at the time, they were on the rise, and now they're one of the best track and field programs in the country. Then it was Mississippi State, wasn't really feeling them. Then it was Ole Miss, wasn't really feeling them. Florida State, Florida, Texas A&M, and
Well, so Florida
Alabama.
State came back in the fold after you went to JC.
Florida State, man, that there was a couple, like all of the schools left me once they found out that the whole situation, right? They never left. And they were Coach Ken Harden, that, my guy to this day. He was the person who said, you know what, man, maybe you should look at these junior colleges. And it was between South Plains and it was between Barton Community College. These are both two really, really, really good schools. So he was always in the mix, right? So
Okay.
when I was making my decision, man, it was between Florida State and Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
Travis. To be completely honest, man, I remember one day, man, I was so like, I, you never know what is going to be the best decision for you. And that's the hardest part about picking a school.
Right.
Now, if you have people in your lives that can give you advice and make the decision a little bit easier, then that's great. But I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have that. They were both great choices, but it's still tough because you want to make the right one.
Of
One
course.
day, man, it was like 5 o'clock, bro. I had just gotten out of my last class of the day, and I had to make a decision coming up, right? So remember, I went to the track and I just kind of sat down, and I was like, God, like, what should I do? Like, what is the best school? Like what is the best option? And what it came down to, and for those that are listening and trying to make a decision, like you want to have a checklist of things,
Right.
right? And especially in track and field, you want to look at the times under that coach, right? But you don't just want to look at one athlete. You want to look at everything. You want to see, okay, why is it just one person running fast? If they're all training the same, there should be a couple people running faster, but they should all kind of be in that similar wavelength. There shouldn't just be one guy running 10-0 and the rest of the guys running 10-3. There's some inconsistencies there. So that's something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, Florida State at that time, man, they were stacked. Man, they had like 7 guys that my year that were gonna go pro and went on to go pros, right? So they were already stacked. And I felt like if I would have went there, man, yes, I would have ran fast, but I felt like I would have been another number. As much as I have respect and love for the coach to this day, I send him recruits who are Canadian. I send him people because I got that love for him,
Mm-hmm.
right? But Alabama, the coach at Alabama, my coach at Barton, he learned from him, right? So I figured, look, if I ran this fast and this well at Barton Community College and he learned from the coach at Alabama, if I go there, I should be able to continue where I left off. And then the other part was, man, in the midst of my prayer and going through the worship, man, and going through the book, um, there something hit me where it said, if you go to Florida State, you'll be another number. But if you go to Alabama, you'll change the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they were ranked number 64th, Alabama was. A couple of guys I competed with who went to junior college, they went to Alabama as well too. Another guy that I competed against, he's from California. He was the number 2 recruit, and he said, "Yo, Akeem, wherever you go, I'm coming." I said, "Man, don't be basing your stuff off me. Don't put that pressure on your boy, right?"
Don't put that
But
pressure on me. Don't put that
yeah,
pressure on me, man.
but I was like, that really spoke to me. It's like, man, if you go to Alabama, you'll change the culture. And so I went to Alabama, and my boy came as well too. And within that first year, man, we went from being ranked 64 to being ranked number 8. All right. So it was right what I believe God said to me, even though my individual performances didn't really get better. We still impacted Alabama, still broke records at Alabama, and they're still top 15 in the country every single year since I left.
Well, that's the big thing, man. Like, if you good, they will find you. I know that. My pops told me that multiple times. I left UCLA and I
Yeah.
ended up going to like Long Beach State, and I'm just like, Dad, I don't know, maybe I should have stayed, whatever. He was like, son, if you're good, they'll find you.
That's great advice, man.
Period. You
Honestly.
know what I'm saying? Yeah, if they're good, they'll find you. And you go for you, don't go for the school, because a lot of dudes go for the school and the name, quote unquote, and like, oh, I went to Duke or North Carolina, UCLA, like in your case, Florida State. I went there and just ran okay for 4 years, and now I'm done.
Yeah.
Where maybe if I would have went to Alabama like you did, and I become the best player on, and bring a culture like you said, it can lead to something different. Long Beach State kind of saved me because I graduated and they got me to being a professional basketball player at
Yeah.
the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's decisions, right? You just hope you're making the best decision because you really don't fully know. Even
you
when
don't
you think
know.
you know, you don't still know. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
no one's
I
ever
was
100% certain.
I'll never always push come to shove, do what's best for you,
Yeah.
and like you said. So my question would be, what was your greatest triumph and your greatest failure in college?
That's a great question, man. Greatest triumph, man. When we surprised everybody in the 4x1 and we were ranked going in, supposed to finish like maybe seventh or eighth, and we finished second. We should have won, but our guy got tight. When that pressure is on you, Travis, that a little tight.
No,
and
no,
his
I
and,
got you. I
and
got
his
you.
back got a little tight and he dipped too early. So that was probably one of the biggest triumphs, man, because that was when people started to say, "What the hell is going on over at Alabama? What are them boys doing over there?" Because they weren't really necessarily a good sprint school, but man, we were starting to put some eyes on us, right? And so
Mhm.
uh, now on the other side of it, man, I had a lot of injuries, right? And I was always a person that always took care of my body. I never played with that. I never played with my nutrition. I never played with that either because I realized that like I wasn't as physically talented as some of these other athletes were. But I'm like,
Mhm.
man, I know for a fact they're not going to be able to be disciplined 7 days a week. I could, right? I know these cats is not going to be eating the vegetables and doing all these different things. I could, right? And so I was like, man, I can do all the small things to even the playing ground, and I was still battling injuries. And a bit of it was on the coaching side, man. We butt heads a lot, right?
Mm.
We didn't really mesh like that. But that's what I would say, man, is because I felt like even though I did everything that I could, I felt like I still left a little bit. My college career didn't pan out how I expected it to because I didn't get an offer after I graduated.
Oh, well, okay. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Well, what would be the biggest lesson that you learned in college?
Oh man. Man, I would say that's a great question, bro. Biggest thing I learned in college, man. No one's ever asked me that before, man. I would say,
Hard hitting questions here in the athlete's journey, baby.
man, I would say the biggest lesson for me was my foundation
Okay. Okay.
because you have cats, right? Who I really think a young adolescent makes the first big decision that a young man or a young woman makes when they're 18 is what am I going to do after high school? Right? And whether you go to school and continue your education, whether you play a sport or you make a decision where, okay, I'm going to step back and just work for a year before I decide what's next. It's a big decision. But you still get to see that, like, man, some of the cats that you went to school with are not going to be around as much. Some of the people you used to rock with are not going to be around as much. And the world has a way of imposing its will and influences on you, and you can get caught up in the comparison game. And so I was most proud of my foundation because, man, I never wavered from who I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I never
Mm-hmm.
did things that didn't represent me. I didn't do things I didn't believe in. I didn't do things I didn't stand for. I was proud of the fact that my foundation grew, but it was stable enough here. And if it's stable enough in college that like, man, it's going to be, I'm going to have this foundation moving forward post collegiately, because I think college, man, you go there to find yourself, yes, but you can also lose yourself as well too.
That's very true. That's very true. So obviously you finish Alabama, you graduate, right? What was next? What happened after? Like, were you knew that you was gonna go pro in track, or
Yeah.
how was, that journey after you graduated?
Man, I graduate, and my old coach, he used to train me back in Canada. He had took over a job to be one of the sprint coaches in England, and then he started this group in Phoenix called Altus. Now it's called World Athletics Center. Now it's called Altus. But he
Mm-hmm.
calls me and he says, "Man, I hear that you're about to hang up the spikes, right? Because I never loved track and field to the point where I wanted to continue post collegiately.
Okay.
Everything that I've done in track and field was a bit of a bonus, man, because I just wanted my school paid for, right?" So he calls me. He said, "Akeem, man, I have this group out in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're very new. And I would love for you to come out. Just come and check it out, man. I worked you before. I know you have a lot there still left in you." And I said, "Man, let me think about it." I said, "When do you need a date? Like, what time do you need me to give you an answer?" And he was like, "October 4th. Trev, I gave that man an answer October 3rd. because
Oh,
because
okay. So I'm gonna take this all the way down to the wire. Okay.
because I was trying to figure out. I'm a man that I like to have calculated every single scenario before I make a decision. So I didn't have a contract. I didn't have money, right? How am I going to go to this place and fund myself? How am I going to live in America and I'm Canadian and I don't have a work permit to even work, right? So what I did was I had written my first book, and I took all of the sales profit from that book, and I said, "Okay, well, this will be able to buy my plane ticket down there, and it'll be able to pay my first month's rent, but I still need like more money for the rest of the year."
Right, right, right.
So, I've never asked my mom for anything in my life. Maybe like I can count on hand how many times I've asked. But this time I was like, "Mom, like, if you could help me with rent, I'd really, really appreciate it." But I knew things would be tight past a couple months.
Right.
So that's why it took me a while to make that decision, man, because I wanted to make sure that like if I did this, that I could actually make it work. And so when I went down there, I had never been to Phoenix before. I knew a couple people in the training group. I had a roommate, but I didn't really know him. Somebody introduced me to him, another Canadian girl, and we ended up being roommates. And I didn't have a pillow. I didn't have a bed. All I took was my suitcase. I had some sheets. And for the first couple months, man, I was training, but I was sleeping in my room, like on the ground, right? And nobody knew that for the
Wow.
first like 5 months. I never told anybody, right? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
needed to know. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about them. It was just about like, man, this is my situation for what it is. Let me make the best out of it as best as I can. And so that was kind of that first step into the professional world. But I didn't start making money until like the next year.
Oh, wow. So you struggled for a whole year doing that, or except for the first 5 months? That's insane, man.
Man,
And
so every day, man, I would I would go to practice and I would say, "Yo, this has to work. This has to work." And so I was training like stupid hard, but
hmm
I did well, like, and I was more healthier, and I had a great season that year. Um I ran 60 meters because you have the indoor season first before you have the outdoor season.
Okay.
And I ran 6:51 indoors, which is like the third fastest Canadian time ever. And that year I finished number 3 in the world. But I was getting invited to these other meets around the circuit, right? And I was
Okay.
battling injury after the first meet, because when your body runs to a certain threshold, man, something isn't right, right? Like you need a little bit of time to be able to recover because running is not a normal motion, right? So when you're running at a certain velocity and speed, the torque that you put forth every single time, it's not normal. And if you're not on, drugs, you should not be able to consistently run these fast times over and over again. So after that time, my body was beat up, man. But I got invited to these other meets. But I went to those meets because I'm just like, man, I'm sleeping on the floor, right? My boy let me use his air mattress. So I was sleeping on the air mattress, but it had a hole in it. So I was going to sleep on the air mattress and wake
I've
up.
done that. Yeah, you wake up and you're on the floor. Yeah, that's happened to me
Man,
once.
and your nose is stuffed up and you're just like, wait a minute, I was just good like 16 hours ago. So I was like, man, I need money now. So I was going to these meets, not 100%, but an opportunity to make some income. So that's what I did, man. And I was able to make some money. It wasn't crazy money, but any money coming in when you have nothing coming in is good money.
Agreed. You know what I'm saying? $10 is better than zero. That's what my dad always tell
Exactly.
me. You know what I'm saying? So I get that. So obviously you're running your meets, right? And so I guess explain to the audience, how do you get like into this Olympic thing? Like obviously, you're winning meets or you're coming in first,
Yeah.
second, third, whatever. How do you get into that Olympic kind of fold?
Yeah, man. So Olympics comes every 4 years, right? But I think one of the biggest misconceptions with that is like th- there is more meets other than the Olympics, right? Like the year
Okay.
before is generally like a world championship,
Okay.
or the year before is usually like a Commonwealth. Commonwealth, America isn't a Commonwealth country, but Canada is, UK is, Australia is, and so there are other championship meets. It's just not as highly televised. There's nothing as highly televised as the Olympic Games.
Okay.
So how to make the Olympic team? So so there's like a standard, right? And it changes every year. So you might have a standard for the 100 meters might be 10.16 seconds, right? Then you might have for the 200, maybe it's 20.4 seconds. So in order to qualify, you need to hit those times, right? You need to hit 10:16 or lower. Then once you hit those times and you did it a couple times throughout the season, when you go to your country trials, you need to finish top 3. And if you finish top 3 and you have the standard, then you are going to be on that Olympic team. Now there's politics involved, obviously, but if you do what you're supposed to do, run your times, qualify top 3 at your respective championship trials, then you'll make that team. So there's different levels and tiers to it. You can't just wake up and just go and run and make the team. You got to hit the standard to be able to make that team. So that's how it works.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, obviously, you're teaching me a lot because I was like, I had no idea how to do it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
what year was your first year in the Olympics?
So 2012, man. So I was actually in junior college when it happened. So 2012, I was 20, yeah, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't run the 100 meters there. I didn't have the qualifying time. So I ran the relays, but I didn't actually get to run. So I was an alternate. So
Okay.
yeah, so I wasn't able to run, but I was there. So my second Olympic team, I ran the 100 and I ran the 4x1 2016 in Rio. So the first time was an experience, man, but it was the first time that you get to see how other elite athletes function from a mentality standpoint. Or you get to see how much, Michael, I saw Michael Phelps in the cafeteria. That dude be eating crazy, right? It's it's not the best, but it works for him, right? And obviously, Usain Bolt, fastest man in the world. I mean, he's eating nuggets, right? And all these different things.
He's eating chicken nuggets.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, bro. So, hey, he is in that list of like freakishly gifted people who can get away with stuff like that. But I don't know what they tell you in basketball, Trav, when you go to like foreign countries, but in track and field, they say, yo, if you go to a place like China or Uzbekistan, it's like, yo, eat what you know. All right. So that's what they say. So, when Bolt won gold in Beijing when he was in China, man, he was lacing up cats off nuggets. You know what I'm saying? Right? Because that's what he knew. That was familiar to him. So first Olympics, answer your question, man, was 2012. Second one was 2016 in Rio.
Okay, so now, how did you feel when you got to walk around, like with all the other athletes and all the other sports?
Yeah,
When people, you get to wave to the people. How was that experience like the
man.
opening days?
I've been to two games. I've never been to an opening ceremonies because we would always, our coaches would be like, hey, you guys got to be focused. So we would always go to like some type of holding camp that was away from where the actual event was. So I've been to closing ceremonies, but I've never been to an opening one, man. So usually I'm at the hotel watching that stuff.
Oh, okay. I was like, man, when I see it, I'll be like amazed, you know what I'm saying? So I'll be like, man, how was that? I wonder how that is, but that's cool. Um, okay, so based off your experience of like doing the track and the Olympics and things like that, what would be your best advice for the next generation of Akeem, the next generation of yourself?
Man, I think, if you're trying to get into the track and field space, and specifically we're talking about the Olympics, right?
Mhm.
And this is gonna be crazy, Trav, when you hear it, man. Uh, if you had to say like an Olympic gold medalist in track and field, like how much would you say that they would make from that meet, from that race?
Or being an Olympic person,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
figure like they would get a lot of money just because they're Olympians. So like if they run a race or the next race, Olympic champion, Hakeem is running, so you get extra than say you get 10,000, everybody else gets five or something.
Yeah, yeah. Essentially correct, man. Like at the Olympics, right? So you get a gold medal, man, and it probably has changed since 2016. Probably not, but
Right.
uh, gold medal you get $30,000. All right, silver medal, yeah,
What?
silver medal you get about $25,000. Bronze you're getting between 15 and 20. My relay group, we got bronze in 2016, and I got $10,000 from that. So you don't actually make money from the Olympics, you make money post Olympics, right?
Okay.
Because then
Okay.
the next year you come in as Olympic champion and everybody wants you there and this and that. But, it's not like that for everybody. And
Right.
so there are a lot of people that you may see on TV and you're just like, man, they must be financially good. Like it must be good. Nah, there's a lot of cats on TV who aren't making a single dime going into that race. They just got a lane. So
Oh,
if you're
wow.
someone who is coming up in the track and field space, man, make sure that you actually love the sport. Right. And not just really care about it, really passionate about it. No, make sure you actually love it, because only if you love it deeply will you be willing to take that risk to continue pushing through some of the stuff that you got to go through, because it's a tough journey, man, and passion and enjoyment is not going to be enough to help you get over the ups and downs that you go with, right? It is going to test you every single way. But if you love the sport, man, and you have an opportunity to walk away with that title, right? That's what the Olympic thing is. It's for the title, it's for the prestige. But I also make
Mhm.
this joke as well too, Trev. If I take my Olympic bronze medal and you take Usain Bolt's Olympic gold medal, and we go to the pawn shop, we're both coming out with the same amount of money.
Probably so, my bro.
Right. So you really have to love this thing, man, and just get into the aspect of the process of it all, as they always talk about. Right. But you have to really love it, because all of the process is not fun. Right. But if you have a strong enough reason behind why you do what you do, man, that'll give you that strength and that encouragement and that power to continue pushing forward to reaching that goal and that pinnacle mark.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you've been running for a while now. You ran in two Olympics,
Yeah.
right? You've been making money during this time doing different meets and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, my personal question for you is that do you get paid for how does the payment go for a track person? Do you get paid for appearances or do you get paid to win?
It's a great question, man. And I think one that not a lot of people really get into.
Right.
Man, so any other job profession, right? You go and you work at, for example, like a donut shop. Every 2 weeks, man, on that second Friday, man, you about to get your your harvest for the investment that you made by showing every
Mm-hmm.
day and doing your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's consistent. Track is not like that, right? You may run a meet in February and may not get that money until like June. Like it's
Uh-huh.
gonna take a couple months.
Oh.
So it track doesn't care about you needing to pay your rent the next month, right? Hopefully, you can get your money, but it's going to be a little bit more patient, right? So you get paid. I'll give two scenarios. Let's give the scenario of Usain Bolt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're Usain Bolt, you're number one, you're top of the pinnacle. He's gonna get appearance fees.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, I want you to go come run in Zurich, right? Come run in Norway, Switzerland. I want you to come over there. We got a lane for you. And we also got, $60,000, $70,000 just for you to show up, right? So that's you. Then if he's got sponsors, which he does, he's got Puma, right? And say Puma has glasses and shades and all this stuff. Uh, you can get a shoe deal, and in your shoe deal, which is how a lot of these athletes make money, is from the shoe contract and from other
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship. Then you get a portion from that. So say Puma gives Bolt, let's say Puma gives Bolt top of the top, say just for a nice safe round number, we'll say 3 million, right? 3 million over 4 years, we'll say, right? And so you have that is your foundational package. You
Right.
got the 3 million from your sponsor, your big sponsor, your shoe sponsor. They're taking care of your shoes, your clothing. You don't got to worry about that. You come make their appearance, whatever they need. But that's your safety net.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then you
Mm-hmm.
have the appearance fee. Come to the meet. We got 6,000 for you, 60,000 for you. Could be more, could be less. Now the actual race, if you win, okay, you get the prize money there. And depending on where it is, it could range from 30,000, 60,000, or it could
Mm-hmm.
range from 3,000. But you're Usain Bolt, you're top of the top, so you're getting a lot of money. Now, if you are not at the top of the top, right, then
Mm-hmm.
you are in that middle. So there's the A circuit and there's the B circuit. A circuit's beautiful, it's glamorous. They travel, the meet directors, they pay for you to come out, they pay for your tickets, they put you in a nice hotel. But everybody isn't in that A circuit. You're in the B circuit, right? So you're gonna still be making a lot of money, but you're not making the $10,000. You're making the three, you're making the two, and your agent is fronting you the money, and then hopefully you get that back, right? Because
Mm.
if
Okay.
he's fronting you the money, because remember, you're still trying to develop and grow yourself, and your agent, he's got a little bit of money put aside for you because his job is to put you in meets.
Right.
So he fronts you that money, right? And he was like, man, don't worry about hotel, don't worry about travel. You're getting fronted the money, or so you think. You think you're starting at zero until you get your meets and you win some races and you stack your bread up a little bit and you're doing your math and you're like, man, I just won 10 grand this month. Yeah, but your agent just fronted you five. So
Oh. Okay.
you're gonna get five, right? But the travel is different as well, too. B circuit, man, you got to get up the next day at like 6 a.m. to catch the train, right? And then
So you
yeah,
catching the train on the B circuit, okay?
oh man, yeah. Oh yeah, you're not taking flights. You're not taking flights, but at the same time, there are some really good B circuit money and B circuit meets. It's just a different grind, right? So it just varies, man. Obviously, if you're top
Mm.
of the top, you'll have a little bit more benefits and a little bit more help. But on the grind, track is a grind, man, especially when you're on your way up.
I imagine, like I said, I imagine you probably have to win, 15 races or be in the top five to get any money.
And
You
the
know what I'm
thing is,
saying?
too, Travis, you can't go into race counting your money, right?
Yeah.
Like
You
because
got to
then
win first, right?
you getting distracted, right? You got to go in and trust your training and put your race pattern together because you're still trying to peak for a certain time. But if you're going in counting your money, man, it's going to get stressful because you're going to be thinking about that. You're like, oh man, this race, if I would have won, I would have got $10,000. Man, I got
Ah,
fourth. So now I'm getting three. And now you hate being over there, right? Because you're
mm,
counting it and it makes the days go by longer, right? So you can't go over there necessarily thinking about the money. Just focus on your game plan, focus on your plan to run fast, and usually it will happen. But it's yeah, bro, it's grueling. It's grueling.
Nah, I respect that, man. I respect the grind. I respect the hustle. You know what I'm saying? Like, when did you know when it was time to hang it up?
Man, that's such a great question, bro, because there are still personally, there are people who I see in track and field still right now, and I'm thinking to myself, man, you need to get out of there because it's not it. It's not it, Trav. And for me, um, I didn't want, I was never going to go running track into my 30s. That was just something that I didn't want to do.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't love I didn't love it like that, right? Like I just didn't have that same feel for it. I wanted to do more things, other things in life. And I was in practice one day, Travis, this was like 2017, yeah, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm physically at practice, physically there, I'm physically warming up, physically doing my thing. But mentally, I was other places. Mentally, I was like, man, trying to get some speaking engagements because, I was still speaking on the side. And I was like, man, I could do this, I could do this. And my mind was there, but my body wasn't. Right. And whatever your heart and mind isn't in, eventually your mind and body is going to take you out of it. And
Mm.
so I started to get the notion of, I felt like I was just going through the motions. And I was just like, man, this is not fair to me. It's not fair to my coaches. And I'm just not going to do it. And so for me, I noticed there was a discrepancy between me physically being there and my heart and mind being somewhere else. So that's when I knew that, you know what, maybe it's time for me to leave this for what it is.
Okay, okay. I imagine, like, when you, like you say, when you're warming up and you're thinking about something else, entirely, like, I need to get a speaking engagement, I need to do this, I need to do that, while you're in the midst of like working out, probably, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
time to let it go. It's time to, when it doesn't, when I feel like when the sport is not your first love anymore, like that's all you think about is that, then it's
Yeah.
time, it's time to, you know, retire the shoes, if you would say, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
there's a lot of people like that, man. One of the fastest girls in the 800-meter, man. She was like, somebody asked her, is like, when is track going to be over for you? And she's stupid young, Trav. She's like 20, 21,
Okay.
already Olympic champ, already world champ. And she was like, look, if a modeling agency came and said, we want to sign you today, she was like, bye, track. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's her first love, right? Like
Mhm,
that's what she wants to do.
mhm.
And there's a lot of people in track and field, man, that they do it because it's a means to an end. Like they're good at it, right? And I'm sure you've been around people like that too,
Of
who are
course, that's every
good at
sport.
it.
That's every sport. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good at it, but I wouldn't say that it's what they love to do,
Hmm, hmm.
but it pays the bills, it gets them right, and so you kind of just push through it.
No, I understand that. I mean, that, look, being a sports guy, like, obviously same thing, just different sport. It's a ton of guys who don't love it. And like in my situation, is you overseas guys, it's a whole nother level, because it's
Yeah,
like you're away from your friends and family unless you bring your girl or your kid over. But not a lot of dudes do that. You know what I'm saying? So like, you really have to love it, because you're away from your friends, your family, everything for, let's say 5 months. Even if you go home for Christmas for a week or two, like
yeah,
you're five, August, September, October, November, December, home for a week, back January, February, March, April, May, and if you go far, June, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So you're there for a stretch. And so like, some people, like, by the end of the season, that's why like the best teams, the Americans, be like, all right, if we lose game one, let me start packing up my shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, dog.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
No,
dudes start packing up at the end
yeah,
of the season. They start packing their bags and like, oh, I don't need this no more. I'm gonna just rock sweats and a shirt.
yeah.
Because they already, mindset is already getting it. I remember,
You already to the crib.
I had a friend of mine whose name is Travis Young. I remember he told me this joke. We had lost game one in the playoffs, right? And it was like, and your first round is best of three, and like we was the number one seed at the time, or number 2 seed. It was number 2 seed. We lost at home. And he was like, hey, Travis. And I looked, that was up. Because I'm like, maybe I'm a little mad. Say, Travis, welcome to British Airways. Can I help you? I was like, dude, shut up, dude. I'm trying to win this next game, bro. Because I'm telling you, like, dudes, like, you know, you already know. So, like, that's how it really is when you hooping and it's been a long. So you just ready to go. You ain't really tripping.
That's how that circuit is life is like
Yeah,
as well.
I imagine your shit is, you know, your stuff was same. Like, you just be like, dude, when is the season over? When is this circuit thing
Man,
done?
I was on the circuit, bro, and I was running very well, bro. Like I was running well, but it was long. It was every week we're going, you know, to England, to Sweden, to Belgium. I'm just like, bro, like, man, like I was like, man, I can't wait to just go back to the crib. Like, you
I
know,
imagine.
and track and field is one of the sports where like you're running for 10 months out of the 12. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay. Okay.
there's no and your break is maybe like 6 weeks, 4 weeks, if that. So no, man, you're speaking truth, bro, because that's the other part that people don't talk about too is, man, it does get tiring because you miss a lot, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. It just I feel like I call the hamster wheelism, or you just constantly on that running down that wheel, and you just feel like it ain't gonna never stop.
Yeah.
You just in a tunnel. So you obviously you make the transition right out of track. So was it a tough transition after you you know, stopped running? Was it an easy transition? How was your
Yeah.
transition after?
Man, before I even say that, Trav, and you shared a story with me off air, man. But when I first came to Canada, bro, I heard this. I don't remember if it was a documentary or if it was like a video that I saw. I think it was a documentary, but it was about this guy, and he was a professional football player, and he played like 8 years. And when he came out, he was like, I tried to commit suicide 3 times, right? Because his identity was in the sport, right? And when you take that away from you, man, like it's when that's you and you take that away just like that, that hits you. And I know sometimes people hear that from the outside looking in and think, man, athletes are soft. It's like, yo, that's far from the case, right? And
Yeah, you have
I
no
watched,
idea.
yeah,
You have no idea.
I watched that as a 9-year-old kid, and I said, man, I don't want that to be my story. So I always searched for other things to do and other things that I may be good at or may enjoy. And so I started speaking when I was like 19, 20 years old. Um, Not that I believe that it could come from anything, but I believe, I believe we're here to make the world a better place in a capacity that is authentic to ourselves, right? And for me, when I'm praying and I'm asking God, like, what is the purpose here? There is purpose inside of all of us. And I've always found the best way to help move the world forward and to connect it and to unite it, to bring hope, to inspire, is through storytelling, right? Because we can get something from stories. And so that's why I'm like, man, God, I really think you're calling me to speak and to share my story and to bring glory to you. Otherwise, man, I wouldn't even speak. I'm telling you right now. See, speaking is not the easiest path, right? So even though, Trav, from 20 years old, right, I was preparing for life after sport. When that time came, it was it was tough because it's like, man, people started seeing me in a different light, even though I was the same cat. I was still speaking the same. I was still doing the same things, still preaching the same message. I still was me, but people didn't treat me as me. They just thought, you know what, it's just Akeem, this and that. So it took me a while to get into the speaking space and to understand how it works. Because again, I didn't know anybody that spoke and wanted to speak at the level that I wanted to in the way how I do. Right. One of the things one of the things someone talked to me about, he was like, man, when you're going out and speaking, man, you shouldn't really, talk about that faith stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about that faith stuff? Like, what are you talking about? He was like, man, not every crowd is ready to receive that. And I said, well, that's probably not the crowd for me because that's a part of my life, right?
Right,
And
right,
and
right.
that's how I talk, right? And so in that process, man, I was doing everything to give myself to speaking, man. There was a point where I was like, man, I know I needed to become a better communicator. So I needed to read more books to understand certain paragraphs and language. I needed to increase my vocabulary to make it extensive because I didn't want to go into a room and felt like I didn't belong in that room. Right. So I would read the dictionary. I would learn a new word every single week and I would practice that word. But then when I got into the speaking space, I realized, wait a minute, these cats don't know what the word intersoculate means. Like they don't know what these stuff means. Right. And so it took me a little bit because I had to learn how the business side of it. You can have a message, but if it's something that you want to actually make a living from, you got to learn the business aspect of it. Right. And I prayed and prayed and prayed because I had to figure this stuff out on my own. Right. So I had to learn, okay, how much do you charge when you're speaking? Right. What credentials do you have? What's your message going to be? Right. What topics are you going to be able to hit? How do people find you? Do you need a website? Right. How do you create a website? How much does a website cost? Do you even know how to make a website? Okay. If you're not going to do this, right, when you look at social media, that's your digital resume. No one's going to just bring you in to speak if they don't know what you're going to talk about or have seen anything about it. So I was just like, man, I started to treat my social media like a resume of me speaking and giving what I am going to be talking about, man. So those are all things that I had to learn, Trav, but it was a tough adjustment, man. And there were a couple times where I was like, yeah, man, maybe this isn't the path. Maybe I should just do something else. And there's some seasons where I was extremely discouraged, man. Not gonna lie to you, man, because I couldn't figure it out. Right. So it was tough and challenging, even though I was ready for life after sport.
That's a hell of a story, man. That's a hell of a story. Now, I want to say thank you, Akeem, man, for coming on the show, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it means a lot to me. Your story is crazy one, man. I appreciate it. We have one last question for you, what we always ask at the end of every show. And then, we'll wrap up. And like I said, you can, let everybody know what you're doing, so they can hear these speeches. And side note, I know this is off topic, but you need to teach me how to do the website thing. I want to build my thing like you, bro.
Let's make it happen, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. So the last question for you is at one point in our career or our life, we always go through low points, right? So obviously you kind of did similar things to me. So, you lived that overseas life where you traveling country to country to country to do meets. So everybody goes through the low points, but for yourself, how did you get yourself out of the low points? Was it God? Was it family? Was it both? Was it yourself? Was it meditation? How did you get it and how did it help you?
Man, that's such a great question, bro. And this is the part that I love, right? Is because we all go through these moments, man. And I don't care how strong a person is, that person gets tired of being strong every single time. I had a couple breaking moments in my life, Trav, that kind of shifted me, man. And that first one was when I was 13 years old, right? Like my mom and I were homeless for a little period of time, right? And I remember when we were homeless, we were staying at this bus stop. And as a 13-year-old kid, right, you're thinking to yourself that like when I came to Canada, man, it was the first time that I'd ever seen like superhero movies, right? Like Batman, Robin, Flash, Green Lantern, all these different cats. And I remember there was this Superman movie, and Lois is always getting thrown off stuff. She just wrong time, always getting thrown off stuff and putting Superman in a bad predicament. But Lois, like, man, like she was pushed off this ledge, and I'm thinking to myself, as an 8-year-old kid at the time, you're thinking, oh man, they're gonna show this on TV, like, she's about to get splattered. But right in the nick of time, like Superman came and saved her, and I'm like, man, is this how Canada is, right? So I'm thinking to myself, like, man, like at some point, like Superman is coming, and then 3 hours went by, and 4 and 5, and then the sky started to be from sky blue to dark gray, and everybody was just going on about their lives, and like that's when I said to myself, man, if anything is going to happen in your life, Akeem, like you're going to have to be the one to initiate it, right? And
Mm.
then I learned gratitude in that moment because I was grateful that I wasn't homeless by myself. I had my mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have survived by myself, right? So that was a moment, Trav, and I shared that story because in my toughest times, and these past couple seasons have been challenging times for me, right? But in the toughest times, man, my faith has always helped me, right? And faith has nothing to do with a religion aspect of it. I'm a Christian, yes, on paper, but it has everything to do with your relationship with Christ, right? If you believe that he has a plan and a purpose for your life and he's using all things, then he's got to be using the stuff that you're going through, right? And if he's using the stuff that you're going through, right? And one of my favorite scriptures is Galatians 6, verse 9, where it says, do not be weary for doing good, for at the proper time you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up.
Mm.
My whole life, man, is much bigger than me, Trav. And I know, and even you know how you move and how you operate. Someone is looking to you for your strength. Someone
Mm-hmm.
is looking to you to see how you're handling what you're going through. And you may not even know them, but you might know them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, man, no matter how much I bend, no matter how much I want to break, I will not fold. And so for me, that is it. And I also know that every season has an expiration date. And so it's going to be good in one season, but it ain't going to be good forever. It's going to be tough in some seasons, but it ain't going to be tough in some seasons forever. But you won't know what's on the other side, man, if you don't keep going up, man. And I always say this too, Trav, to answer your question. It's like you look at a phone, right? And whether a phone has 100% or it has 1%, it still works the same. As long as it has a little
Mm.
bit of juice in there, you can
Yep.
still make your calls, you can still hit the text messages. As long as you have juice, it's still going to work. As long as you have breath in your body, you can still get up out bed, man, and still do one thing that'll help you get closer to where you want to get to or help you get out of the situation, man. So that's all it is, man. I don't want to get to a stage where, God says, man, did you give your all? And I want to say, yes, I did.
Mm.
And I feel like there are going to be people when that time comes and they're not going to be able to say that.
No, you're right. You're
And I
right. I
want to
agree
say
with
that.
you. I got you. Well, on that note, that's it. There ain't no more questions. You know what I'm saying? We going, you know what I'm saying? On that note, that's just wonderful, bro. Let the people know what you're doing, where they can find you, where they can find your website, everything.
Yeah, man. So all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, it's at underdog AKH, man. Website www at akeeminspires.com. It's getting rebuilt, so it's down right now. But man, I'm across all social media platforms, and that's where you can find me, man.
Okay, okay. And once again, you can follow me at Travis W. Reed. That's REED, Travis W. on Instagram and on Facebook. I post all my social media on both those sites. I got my link tree on my Instagram, so you can, like if you want to see this episode, I have it up. You can listen to it straight up on Linktree. I'm trying to get my website done because I need to put all these YouTube videos up, like the one we're doing right now. That's why I was like, I need you.
Yeah,
I need you, Akeem.
got you, man. I help
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. And pretty much if you're still looking, people have been asking, people looking for their athletes, their journey merch, their Travis Street Athletes Journey, please DM me or message me. And like I said, I'll send it to you personally, myself, so still got shirts, still got those. People have been asking. Yeah, I get them from small, medium, large, extra large, double X. So also, if you are interested in joining a book club, you for former athletes or anybody interested in joining a book club, I do have one on my LinkedIn page, Travis Reed Book Club. So, it's about, I don't know, about 20, 25 people. So we just review books, those kind of things. So just, just loving whoever likes to read books. For me, I'm a big book guy now. Love audio books, love reading books, just to kind of like, about dynasties and just, different stuff, so just, expanding my knowledge. So I want to say thank y'all for coming out, for listening. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.